Hello and welcome to my show. My name is Miriam Byers and I'm the host of the One Time podcast. In my podcast, I explore techniques and strategies and mindset shifts that help you and me to manage time and energy with more ease and a greater sense of control. In today's episode, Frida Rångtell and me talk about sleep and how our sleep influences our well-being and productivity during the day, and how our behavior during the day again shapes the quality of our sleep. So how it's all connected, the time we're awake and the time we're sleeping. And since I assume you too sleep every once in a while, I'm sure you will get something out of this episode. Frida is a sleep researcher and expert, and she has been fascinated about sleep for as long as she can remember. Already as a child, she wondered about what happens when she sleeps, how does her brain produce all these sometimes very weird dreams. And in later years, when she studied biomedicine at Uppsala University in Sweden, she realized that sleep is actually something that one could do research on. And from then on, she was pretty much hooked to that topic, also professionally. She completed her PhD on sleep in connection to memory and dived deeper and deeper into the topic of sleep. After all, sleep is one of the foundations of our health and well-being and performance. And after finishing her PhD, she went to start her own company called Slumra, where she helps individuals, athletes, leaders, teams, organizations to achieve better sleep health and a better, healthier relationship to their sleep. Because again, sleep is one of the foundations for our health and well-being, performance, happiness. And Frida believes and is convinced that organizations that take care of the sleep of their employees have a greater chance of being successful and being an attractive employer. So apart from running her own company these days, she is also employed at Mälardalen University in Sweden, where she continues the research on well-being and factors important for a good night's sleep. So, if after the episode you would like to read up on what we said and get a bit more guidance on how to systematically implement new or better habits around sleep, then grab the free PDF that I created for you to download by following the link in the show notes. And then let's dive in and have fun listening to this episode. Then hi, Frida.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Yeah, how did you sleep last night?
That's a really good question. Actually, this night I didn't really sleep very well. I had a lot of thoughts that I had to process. And it was really warm and bright in my bedroom. So I woke up a couple of times, but I think the night was as it should be, in sense, processing the things that are kind of coming up and so on.
Okay.
We all have those nights every now and then.
Yeah, we do. So I slept fine. I didn't wake up. I usually don't wake up, actually. I'm knocked out pretty much when I fall asleep. But I was still a bit tired when I woke up, so the alarm was a bit too early for me.
Well, and I think for some people, we are just tired when we wake up. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm not really a morning person, and even if I feel very alert once I get up, I'm still quite tired when I need a little bit of time to go from sleeping to being fully alert.
Yeah.
So I need to kind of take that into consideration, that I'm a little bit tired in the morning, and that's okay. While other people are super alert as soon as they wake up and they can just go. I need a little bit of kind of shifting time.
Yeah. Maybe kids, at least the kids I know, they're I'm here.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, even for kids, there are still individual differences.
Yes.
Kids are more of evening types, some are more morning types, just as us adults. So yeah, there are still some differences between us from the day we're born, basically.
Yeah. But I prepared some questions, and
Mhm.
then we can see. So the first question would be, why do we sleep at all? Like, I think it's a bit funny that we are basically unconscious, laying around, not able to protect ourselves, not able to reproduce. These are like the main two things we are kind of meant to do during our lives, right? So why has nature decided that it's a good idea for us to sleep at all?
That's a really good question. And I think this is a question that we're still kind of exploring this. We don't really have a clear-cut answer, like this is the purpose of sleep. And I think that is actually the fascinating part that got me into sleep research from the beginning. But there are different theories, or there are some different things that we know that sleep is good for. So we know it's good for learning and memory. It's good for processing emotions and processing the things that we are kind of exposed to during our daytimes. And then we can better prepare for the future and maybe deal with those situations better in the future if we kind of can process things from the past. But also for like our immune system, building up muscles, and kind of recover from injuries and metabolism. I mean, all these things, sleep seems to have an important function. So there must be something really important with sleep. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it, as you're kind of mentioning here. Like, we are quite exposed to dangers when we are sleeping because we're not aware of our surrounding. And I also find this very like strange in a sense. Just imagine if you're like an alien kind of approaching Earth and you see like when the sun is going down, people start to prepare and like going into their small houses and just like lay down and fall asleep. That's just so weird. But I think there's one thing that we tend to forget when it comes to sleep. I think we often see it as a kind of an individual thing, looking at the individual's sleep. But if we look back in history or in other cultures on Earth, sleep is often something that happens kind of in the group. And this also creates safety. So we already talked a little bit about these kind of differences between us. That some are more of evening types, some are more morning types. And this will change throughout life. So when we are approaching like teenage years, we become more of evening types and we stay up later than our parents, maybe. And maybe this could be good for relationships and reproduction. And then when we get older and older, we tend to become more morning types and we wake up earlier in the morning. We are more easily awakened during the night. And then we have the parents to the small children. Maybe they wake up more regularly during the night for breastfeeding, for instance. So when we have a group of people, one study found that in this group, they measured this with like actigraphs. So they measure like how you're moving and rest and wakefulness. They saw that during the 24 hours, there was almost always someone that was a bit more alert. So this means that even if we are sleeping, there is still someone that is more alert towards potential dangers during the night. And maybe also like sleep in itself can be a part of kind of strengthening these bonds between humans. Like when people are sleeping close together, that's maybe not the best if we look at sleep just objectively, like measuring how we're sleeping. But I think sleep is more than that. It's more than the number of hours that we're sleeping or kind of taking optimal sleep. Most people prefer to sleep with a partner if they're in a relationship, for instance, even though their sleep might be a little bit worse than if you're sleeping alone. Because they subjectively perceive their sleep to be better. So, and also when it comes to kids, many kids want to sleep with their parents or not sleeping alone. And studies also indicate that our sleep can maybe synchronize a little bit when we are sleeping together with someone. So that the different sleep stages are kind of synchronized a bit more compared to when you're sleeping kind of more separate. So there could be something with sleep that are kind of strengthening these bonds between humans and making it also positive for our waking life and our relationships during our wake time. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah. So it's when we are in a group, it's in one way synchronizing in the sense that we like to sleep at the same time, but it's also not in sync when it comes to when I'm in my deep sleep. Maybe my partner is not in the deep sleep. So that there would always be one of us who is more alert. Is that right?
That's I'm not sure if we know, those details, but so there are different studies, and some studies look at more like when partners are sleeping together, it seems to be kind of synchronizing your sleep patterns a bit more. But the other study where you sleep more as a group, that one was looking more at like if there's always someone that's a bit more alert during the night. And if you sleep more like as a group, like with several people with different ages and so on, there's more likelihood that someone will be more alert at a certain time point during the 24 hours.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I guess maybe also historically we didn't really sleep just two people together, right? It was
Most likely we slept closer together in a sense, maybe not sharing bed all the time, but but at least having your kind of tribe surrounding you in some sense.
Okay. So we know the benefits of sleep, and I guess also what you mentioned, we are processing our emotions, we are healing our body. And when we're awake, we are busy with getting new information and new emotions and getting hurt physically or something. So the body and the mind, I guess, wouldn't have the option, actually, the capacity to also process.
Yeah, it seems like some processes needs to kind of happen when we are not interacting with our surrounding. And that's probably where sleep comes in.
Okay. And you are a sleep researcher yourself. And what is your focus at the moment? What is it that interests you most?
So I do a lot of things to sleep. I'm both, I did a PhD in neuroscience at Uppsala University. I defended my thesis in 2019. And my thesis studies were about different things that impact how we sleep, and also kind of what happens when we're sleeping in terms of memory and learning, and what happens when we're not sleeping. So different aspects of sleep. Sleep is quite a broad topic, and that's what I really like about it. And there are so many different things that kind of connect with sleep. And then when I had defended my thesis, I actually started my own business. Because I also, like during my time as a PhD student, I had quite a lot of opportunities to talk about sleep with the public. And I felt like this is really something that I want to do more, because I feel like there's so many people that are impacted by sleep, or like everyone are impacted by sleep in a sense. But there's, first of all, quite a lot of myths surrounding sleep. And people need more tools and more knowledge about what is good sleep, how can I care for my sleep, and also the kind of fascinating parts of sleep, what is really going on when we're sleeping. So I have been doing a lot of different things when it comes to sleep. I've been a consultant for different companies working with sleep, and I've been doing quite a lot of lectures to both like organizations, companies, kids within kind of the sports sphere, also like older people, senior citizens, and they all have their different kind of questions and challenges when relating to sleep. And I think that's quite fascinating that we all relate to it, but we may have different things that we think about when we think about our sleep, depending on where we are in life and who we are. But I also do some research. So now I'm looking at, I'm at Mälardalen University, and we look at kind of the workplace and what happens when we go outdoors working a bit during the daytime. And this could probably impact like our circadian rhythm when it comes to like how we regulate day and night, and this impacts sleep indirectly as well. So this is what I'm looking at right now, but I've also done like programs and courses, and a lot of things sleep, right?
Okay, I see. Yeah, that's interesting. And what you mentioned, that what is good sleep, and that sleep means something else for different people in their life situations. I guess a parent is different from a teenager, is different from senior citizens, and it's all different.
Yeah.
So is there such thing as good sleep, or is it really different for all of us what good sleep actually is?
I would say that there are several things that build into the concept of kind of good sleep. And of course, one part of it is like, how many hours do I sleep? And most adults need somewhere between 7 to 9 hours per night to feel their best and to perform their best and to function best during their daytime. But it's much more than that. It's also about the quality. I mean, do I wake up a lot during the night and I feel like I'm not really getting more kind of deeper sleep? It's more restless sleep. Does it take like long time for me to fall asleep? If it takes like 1.5 hours, maybe I start to get a bit of anxiety surrounding it and worries. What about if I cannot fall asleep? What's going to happen tomorrow? Or maybe I wake up during the night and I cannot fall back asleep. That can become problematic. And then it's also about regularity. I mean, I don't think we talk about this that often, but it's not only the number of hours of sleep, it's how regular are my sleep times. And we feel our best and function our best when we have more regular times. And impacting, I mean, we have the circadian rhythm impacting our sleep. So this is kind of sensing if it's day or night and adapting our biology and our behavior to this rhythm. And then we also have something called sleep pressure. So the longer I've been awake, the higher the pressure I have to sleep, or the higher likelihood is that I'm going to fall asleep. So if I've been up for like 48 hours straight, I'm probably going to not struggle with falling asleep. But these two kind of concepts with the circadian rhythm and the sleep pressure, they interact together. So it's most easy for me to fall asleep when the rhythm is telling me, oh, it's evening and time to prepare for bed. And I've been kind of awake for long enough time to be tired. If I've been sleeping in the evening, falling asleep by the television, for instance, I'm not going to have so high sleep pressure and it might be difficult to fall asleep. But then we have the third factor, and that is kind of my activation level. So even if it's evening and I have a quite good sleep pressure built up, if I check my email and see I have an email from my supervisor about the paper I'm writing, and there's a lot of red comments in it, I might have a bit of a pulse,
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, I have to do all these things tomorrow. Oh my God, my supervisor hates me, or whatever it is. It's not going to be easy to fall asleep.
Yes.
So we also need to have kind of a winding down period where we are kind of transitioning from the wake time, more activity, to more kind of preparing for bed, getting into the night mode. So that can really help us. And if we have that approximately the same time every day, it's going to be more helpful in actually be able to wind down and to fall asleep and waking up at approximately the same time every morning. But then it's also about how do I feel during my daytime? Do I feel like I have quite good energy? Of course, we all have dips, like when we are getting a bit tired after lunch, for instance, and that's also normal. But in general, do I feel like I'm alert and kind of content and happy? Then it's more likely that our sleep is functioning well. How I feel about my sleep and the sleep regularity and kind of the number of hours as well are some key concepts when it comes to good sleep. There, as I mentioned before, there are individual differences as well. So starting with going back to myself, like what are my needs? When do I function my best? What is kind of a good day for me? And how does my sleep look like then? And some people really like to get up super early, get their yoga or reflection nap or exercise in the morning, and then start working early. Other people, if they would do that, if they're evening types of persons, they would probably not feel so good and not perform well. So it's really about getting to know ourselves, not looking so much about other people, but kind of get to know what I need.
Okay, so it's also the time that we are awake is just as important as our activity while we are awake. It's just as playing into our sleep as the actual sleep.
Yeah. Absolutely. So relating to that, I mean, I mentioned the circadian rhythm, and that is, we have an internal rhythm. It's like an inner clock that ticks on by itself, and we have the major clock in our head, and this is controlling all the other clocks that we have in all the other cells of our body because we want them to be synchronized and ticking on at the same time, right? But this clock is usually not exactly 24 hours. Maybe it's a bit of a time optimist like myself. And we need some kind of external cue to help us to set the clock right so that it is according to the sun time. So the major kind of cue for this is actually light, daylight. So when we are exposed to daylight outdoors, because outdoor light is much stronger than what we have indoors, we are kind of resetting our clock, helping us to understand what time of day it is. So if we're exposed to daylight early during the day, in the morning or before lunch, this is really helpful actually for kind of synchronizing our clock and for going to bed earlier in the evening, sleeping better in the evening. So, but then we also have the contrast. I mean, the darkness is important as well. It's all about timing. If we have like not so much daylight during the daytime and then we turn on like artificial lights during the evening, we're not going to have this difference between day and night. It's going to be more flat. And our bodies are not going to understand as well what time of day it is. So we need this difference. We need daylight during the daytime and then turn it off and have more darkness in the evening so that our bodies can understand what time of day it is and release these kind of melatonin, for instance, which is a sleep-promoting hormone that is increased in the evening. So compared to before in human history, we need to think about these things a lot more today with our modern technology that we have and our modern lifestyle.
Yeah. I guess if someone is, especially during Scandinavian winter or something, they're taking the metro to work, they're sitting in their offices, they come home when it's dark, and then the bathroom has like spotlights.
Yeah.
So then, of course, how should the body know where it is in time? So that is something one could think about. How do I get to work or something? What do I do before work or during my lunch break or something?
And if it's dark when you go to work and it's dark when you leave work for going home, try to see if there are times during the daytime where you can go outdoors. And either for a break or for something similar that we do in the study that I'm currently involved in, where they are actually instructed to go outdoors and doing some type of work during the day. And that could be, either sitting and reading something or being in a meeting, or it could also be like a walk for reflection or taking notes or planning. People do a lot of different things outdoors. So I think it's a lot about mindset as well. And the culture that is created in the workplace. Like, does it feel legit to go outdoors? And this is work, which it is. Probably much more like improving performance, much more than just sitting indoors and just trying to like force it hour after hour. It can be a lot more productive to actually change the environment, go outdoors for break or for work, and then come back in. So I think it can be a really smart move, actually, if you want to do good work.
I see. Yeah. I guess then if the sleep gets better, then also the work improves. And
Certainly.
Yeah. And if we don't get enough sleep, what are the consequences of that at work, but also personally? Maybe too, if we understand what the bad consequences are, then maybe it's easier to convince ourselves to do something about them.
Yeah. And the tricky thing with sleep is that sometimes we are not consciously aware of the consequences of sleep loss. And this is actually what we see consistently in different types of studies, is that we think that we still perform at the same normal level as usual, but our reaction times are worse, our focus is worse, our mood is worse, and how we deal with stress. And we might also be like worse leaders, and because we might be a more hostile leader, and also kind of perceive, like this is perceived also by the other people in the team as negative. And if the employee or the other people in the team are also sleep deprived, they might be perceived in a different way. And this is kind of probably impacting the team, kind of how you work together and how you collaborate and how you perceive each other and the culture that is at work. So it can have quite probably more impact on us than we think. And also in terms of safety, like if I'm driving and I haven't been sleeping, that's quite dangerous. More prone to making mistakes both at work and in other parts of life.
Yeah, true. We test for alcohol in the blood, but we wouldn't test for the level of melatonin or something, right?
Tiredness, yeah.
The tiredness. Yeah, interesting. I guess that is also when companies go into leadership training and communication, and then it doesn't work the way that they hoped it would, and it's just because people are tired. And
and sometimes there's a culture of kind of working a lot in the evening. And I think there are some benefits with having this kind of flexibility in work times. But I also think that we need to be aware of kind of how we do this in the best way to make it as positive for the individual and for the organization and the team and the research as possible. Because what could happen is that you sit up late and you work, and then you sleep worse because you have less time to sleep, and it takes some time to wind down, and maybe there's some spinning thoughts and so on. And maybe there's this expectation that you should be kind of available, or you have this sense of feeling that I should answer emails if they come in the evening and so on. And that this is maybe seen as some part of being like ambitious and I'm doing a good job because I'm working all the time. But then the next day, we're tired, less productive, focusing less on the important tasks, and we're not really performing as well. So, and then when the evening comes again, we're probably behind on some tasks. And then you have to work in the evening again.
Yes.
And then it's like the cycle is kind of spinning. And it can be quite difficult to break this. And I think one challenge that we have today when it comes to like office work is that we don't really have a point of kind of the work tasks that we're doing where it's like, now I'm finished. You can always do more. Yes. Yeah, that is. With knowledge work, there's always something that could be done. Yeah. So how do we create this kind of feeling of, okay, now I'm done for today? And this can be much more productive and effective to stop working earlier in the evening than to just kind of sit hours and hours and hours. So yeah, I think we need to kind of shift the mindset a little bit on what is perceived as ambitious and effective and conscious work. If someone is part of a culture where it seems difficult to change the culture itself, what could one do on the individual level to get better sleep? We already talked about the exposure to lights. That was something, and allowing us to wind down in the evening. Is there anything else that people could do to improve their sleep? Yeah, I mean, there are some different tools that we can use. And first of all, I think it's important to kind of raise these questions. Like, even if you yourself are not a leader, just to kind of raise these questions in your work group, like, how do we want to have it? Or think for yourself, like, how do I function at my best? Do I perform my best work? And see if you can kind of communicate this. Get help from maybe your supervisor in prioritizing, and talk about like what you need to perform at your best. So start a conversation. Maybe that's not going to work because this is kind of in some cultures, work cultures, this is really like has been like this for a long time, and might be difficult to change or shift. But at least maybe try to start a conversation. Maybe you're inspiring someone that is a junior researcher, and maybe they go to another lab and they make changes there. So you never know really like who you're going to impact and what kind of impact you might have in the long run. We can all be kind of role models in a sense. So a little bit kind of refusing to be part of this culture. Yeah, part of it. Like maybe not bragging about, oh, I was up really late and in the lab, and as this is something positive. Maybe you still do it, but maybe you can brag about, oh, I went outdoors for lunch. You know, I was in bed at 10. Yeah, exactly. These are things that we can highlight. I mean, when it comes to emails, we can still write emails in the evening if this is something that we feel like we have to do. But we don't have to send them off. We can have them like scheduled to send during office hours or whatever, to kind of sending out these signals that this is not the norm. So that's one part. The other part is, as we mentioned, like getting daylight and getting evening darkness, or at least more dim light in the evening, more this kind of cozy light, and having tools for dealing with stress and winding down. We are kind of running the whole days and not really stopping. And then the evening, when our head hits the pillow, is the only time during the day when we have a little bit of quiet time. Thoughts are probably going to start spinning, and it might be quite difficult to wind down. And winding down is actually something that we can practice. So, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm sitting and meditating for 1 hour. That's quite ambitious.
Yeah.
It can also be like, okay, each time I go to the bathroom, I close my eyes and I take 3 deep breaths. And that is kind of starting to practicing our bodies to winding down, even if things are stressful. And there are other relaxation techniques that we can use. There's one particular that I really like. It's called progressive muscle relaxation. And it's because I like it because it's not so much about what's in your head. And I think for people with knowledge work, we are a lot up in our heads.
Yeah.
So this exercise is much more about coming back into our bodies. So, and there are guided ones that you can find on like YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But the basics of it is that you tense a muscle, let's say your arm, take a deep breath in, and you tense it and hold it. You hold your breath and you tense your arm as hard as you can.
Okay.
You do this for a little bit, and then you relax. And you have your eyes closed. And afterwards, you sense the difference between the arm that you tensed and the arm that you haven't tensed yet. And you can really feel a big difference in heaviness or relaxation and so on. And then you do the other arm, and you do your legs, and you can do a really long one, going through all the small parts of your body, all the muscles, or you can do like short 2-minute version. Right leg, right arm, left arm, and then finally your face when you look like a raisin. And it's amazing how, like, the impact of this, you can really sense how much calmer you feel afterwards. And you can practice this both like sitting up or even standing at work, at your desk, or in the bathroom, or in another area at work or outdoors. And you can do it in bed when you are winding down for bed, or if you struggle to falling asleep, or this is a tool you can use at many time points of your day. So finding ways in practicing to wind down, and also think about coffee consumption.
Yeah.
Because caffeine is great for alertness, and for improving our performance and so on. But when we are sleeping, we don't want to improve our alertness. And the thing with coffee and caffeine, caffeinated beverages, is that it has quite a long time for being kind of broken down by the body. So the effect is quite long. So there was one like meta-analysis when they looked at, okay, how long before going to bed does it still have a negative impact on sleep? And in this study, they saw that 9 hours before going to bed, it still had a negative impact on sleep.
Oh, now I need to back calculate.
Yeah, I mean, sometime in the afternoon, like early afternoon. But there are probably quite large individual differences as well. Some are more sensitive and some are a little bit less sensitive. So I would suggest to kind of play around a little bit, but be conscious about, like, if I feel like it's difficult to wind down in the evening, or if my sleep is not optimal, or I feel tired in the morning or during the daytimes, try to reduce caffeine in the afternoon or during daytime. I love coffee, so it's not like you have to like quit completely. Just be conscious about it.
I know some people that tell me coffee has no effect on them whatsoever. They can drink it after dinner. Is that even possible?
I think it's easy to trick ourselves into thinking that, because we're not always aware what's going on when we're sleeping. I mean, it's really difficult to evaluate our sleep, actually. Because our subjective feeling of our sleep doesn't always match what we can see when we measure it objectively. So even if we feel like our sleep is not impacted by caffeine, I would challenge them and ask them, okay, so try it. Try to reduce caffeine and see what happens. Do you feel any differences? Because sometimes also we get used to a habit, or we get used to sleeping too few hours, for instance, and we feel like we're getting by, and we are getting by. I mean, our bodies can deal with a lot of stuff. But maybe when we start sleeping longer, for instance, then we sense, oh, can it really feel this good? Well, that's when we really feel the positive effect of it. So experiment. I mean, we're researchers. You can kind of experiment with yourselves as well and see, when do I sleep the best and feel my best?
Okay, I try to challenge them.
They should listen to the podcast.
Yes, they should. Yes, true. Is there anything apart from coffee that you, when it comes to eating or when it comes to drinking or consumption in any way?
I mean, there are some quite preliminary studies on like how food impacts our sleep. And I wouldn't really say we have that much kind of clear cut information on like, you should eat this and this is going to improve your sleep. There's some indication that some types of food like bananas and other like cherries and so on, that can kind of impact the production of melatonin, which can be positive for sleep, but it's still kind of preliminary. But in general, I mean, if we feel good, then we are more likely to sleep better. And if we sleep better, we're more likely to feel good and make good food choices and so on. So it all goes together. Like if we're eating quite healthy and we exercise and so on, then this can promote sleep probably, and the other way around. That's actually something to consider. Like exercise can really help our sleep. Our well-being, of course, but also our sleep. So doing exercise regularly, preferably something fun that we enjoy, is going to help our sleep. And sometimes when we exercise or doing other activities, we are also having this like social part of it. And I think that's something that we tend to forget. Like our social relationships are really important for how we feel and our well-being, and also promote sleep. And when we have been sleeping better, this is actually another potential consequence of sleep loss. When we have sleep loss, we tend to withdraw more. We want to be kind of cuddle up inside, being alone. But if we challenge ourselves and still kind of socialize with a friend or someone we meet on the street or coworkers or whatever, we feel a positive effect of it, even though we are sleep deprived. And it can also, socializing can help us to be more alert in the moment and more tired in the evening. So it can have some quite positive effects. And when it comes to other types of drinks, I mean, consider also that some types of teas can have alerting components, but I think we should also talk about alcohol. And I mean, alcohol can make it easier to fall asleep. It's the tricky thing about it. It can feel like you're falling asleep like that and really heavy, but it does have negative impact on our deep sleep during the night. You can wake up more easily, and it's not a good thing for sleep. And especially if we do it more regularly, it can make it more difficult to fall asleep and even kind of promote insomnia, like trouble sleeping. So alcohol is not the best pillow for a good night's sleep. But of course, I mean, sometimes we still want to drink alcohol. I mean, not everyone, and it's of course also okay not to drink alcohol. But some people enjoy a glass of wine, and I think it comes back to, I mean, all of these things that we're talking about, it comes back to active choices. It's okay to choose something else, like staying up all night partying, because you're creating fantastic memories for your life, if it doesn't happen like every night. And it's okay to choose that every now and then. It's going to impact your sleep for sure. But as long as we're aware of the consequences of our actions and we make conscious decisions, it's up to us.
Yeah, sure. It's a question that I can ask myself, okay, this will impact my sleep negatively, but I want to have this night out, and then I would just be tired on Saturday and I pay the price.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe being annoyed about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, why now I can't do anything on Saturday? So like, yeah, the conscious decisions.
For what it is.
And talking about the conscious, you also mentioned before, like nighttime anxiety and either having trouble to fall asleep because the head goes wild, or waking up in the middle of the night and then there is these thoughts that seem so troublesome. Apart from the relaxation exercise that you mentioned before about the relaxation and the tensioning of the muscles, is there something else that one could do, or is it just also the awareness? Okay, right now I have nighttime anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we all are faced with every now and then, some people more often. And it also depends on where you are in life. Like if a lot of things are happening at the same time and there are big challenges and changes and so on, there are going to be a lot of things to be processed. But yes, there are things we can do, luckily. First of all, I mean, I think that it's good to remember that even though sleep is important, it's probably even worse compared to like sleeping too little, kind of being very anxious around our sleep situation is probably worse than too little sleep. And worse sleep every now and then, we can deal with this. I mean, our bodies can handle it. But the kind of thought processes going on, this is really important to kind of break this cycle so it is not becoming something that is kind of regularly happening, because then it's going to be kind of thought processes that you start to relate your bed and going to bed with anxiety. So you want to break that kind of pattern. And first of all, we can kind of question the thoughts a little bit, because our thoughts that we have during nighttime, they can feel like grandiose, and the problems can feel so much bigger than when we are up and about during daytime. And I know for myself, like sometimes I've been spending like a lot of time during the night ruminating about problems that feel gigantic, you know? And then when I get up in the morning, I'm like, why did I spend so much time on that? So our kind of thought processes can become distorted during nighttime. And that is kind of good to keep in mind, because then we can almost view our thoughts a little bit from above. We don't have to push away any thoughts, because that's just going to make them bigger and coming back even stronger. But we can notice kind of what is coming. We can see, oh, now I had that thought. That's interesting. I wonder where that came from. And we can let it kind of be there without interacting so much with it. And be curious, but not consciously kind of continue to spin on it. We can let it be there and kind of let it float away as well. And if a thought is coming, we can do the same thing. And this is kind of part of mindfulness in a sense. So letting the thoughts be there without interacting too much with them, noticing it, be curious on it. We can have paper and pen next to our bed. I really like doing that, because then I can kind of note it down. And I know that when I do that, it's going to be much easier to let it go. Because then, first of all, I have it on paper so I can pick it up tomorrow. And we can even like schedule a little bit of rumination time in the morning, so that I know that, okay, now I'm having all these thoughts, and I have a time schedule for myself tomorrow to deal with it. I don't have to spend time on it now that I'm in bed.
Yeah.
And we can also have a bit of time in the evening to write down a list of things that we think could start spinning, or things that I need to do tomorrow, or things that are kind of going on right now, and a small kind of action I could take on it to come closer to a solution, or to deal with it. Then I can tell myself when I'm in bed, oh, I have already kind of processed that when I was a little bit more alert. I have it on paper. I don't have to continue thinking about it and solve it right now. We can distract ourselves a little bit. I mean, it is good to have a bit of quiet time to let our kind of thoughts come and process things before we fall asleep. But after a bit of time of that, we can also distract ourselves with a little bit of calm music, for instance, or maybe a podcast that we enjoy. I heard quite a lot of people, they listen to Harry Potter when they fall asleep.
Okay.
So finding something that we enjoy to listen to that can make this kind of time of being in bed into something that feels a bit more positive, enjoyable and cozy. A time that we enjoy in a sense. And if things are still problematic and you feel like I still cannot fall asleep, I'm starting to get anxious, my body is just tensing, it's better to actually stop trying and get up. Because sleep is one of the things that we cannot really control. I cannot decide, okay, now I should fall asleep. Now it's only 7.5 hours before my wake up alarm. I must go to sleep now. It's not helpful. It's actually better to like turn the clock around, don't see the time, accept it for what it is, than to continue to try and just lie there and try to force yourself. There are even studies on something called paradoxical intention, where you are actually trying to force yourself to stay awake.
Oh, okay.
That can help you to fall asleep.
Okay.
So, I mean, sleep is not something that we can perform like other things in life. And I think many like knowledge workers and people in science, we are performers in a sense. We are ambitious people. And sleep is one of these things that we have to accept that it is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
So getting up, stop trying, be up for maybe 25 minutes, and then come back to bed. Try again. If it still doesn't work, repeat the procedure. It's probably better than lying there for 4 hours and feel anxious and stressed about it.
Yeah, definitely. When I heard of the term nighttime anxiety for the first time, because I guess at least me, I thought this was just me. Like many experiences maybe that we have first, we think it's just me.
Yeah.
And then I had a term for it, and that really helped. So knowing this is what I'm experiencing. And then I read an article, and the author wrote about a blue hour. So she described this period as her blue hour, as something she kind of like now in some sense appreciates. It's like she gets up in the night, and before she would just be annoyed, like, I need to sleep now. But then she could be like, okay, this is my me time. This is like a little gift to myself, these 20 minutes. And that really helped me. And now I just call them my blue hours.
That's beautiful.
And I'm not like that stressed anymore. I'm like, in 2 hours I need to wake up. And yeah.
That's a beautiful example.
Yeah.
Of how kind of shifting our mindset around it can really change the narrative of our nights.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, today in our culture today, it's quite common that we try to optimize everything and kind of be on top of everything and be perfect. And I think it's also worthwhile to kind of consider what it is to be a human and kind of experience the night, experience this blue hour and be curious on it. Maybe not always kind of focus so much on how sleep is when it comes to these kind of measurable things with a number of hours and so on. And maybe shift the focus at least a little bit towards, okay, what is my experience of the night? What can I be curious on? How does it feel to be up during the night when other people are sleeping and I can just be with my own thoughts or listen to some very interesting music or podcast or whatever?
Yeah, true. Nice to get a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we close, you mentioned at the beginning that there's a lot of myths about sleep. Would you share your 2 favorite myths?
Well, at least something that I see quite a lot in when I'm on LinkedIn and other places is that this kind of 5 a.m. club is for everyone. That you should be up super early and really get the best out of the day. And we already talked about this a little bit, like, yeah, that definitely works for some people, but not for all.
No.
So that's certainly one of the common myths that I hear. Then there's been one myth quite recently that I've seen often on Instagram, for instance, that women should sleep, I think, like 10 hours or something, like 9-10 hours, which is, I mean, there is some truth to it, that there are differences between women and men when it comes to our sleep, but the differences are probably not that large. I mean, maybe it's more about half an hour than 2 hours extra or so. But still, I mean, there is quite big value in figuring out how much sleep do I need? When do I feel at my best? That we've been talking about. And I think that most people don't need 10 hours of sleep. I mean, that's a bit too much, because there is actually a sweet spot. Too little is not good, but too much is not good either. So we need to identify where on this kind of spectrum is my optimal. And women tend to need a bit more sleep than men, struggle a bit more with sleep problems like insomnia. But we also tend to have more deep sleep than men, whereas men might sleep a little bit shorter, a bit more of evening types of people. And I mean, this is on a group level, of course. And also that they have less deep sleep. And instead of insomnia, they might have more like sleep apnea. So sleep apnea is that kind of when you stop breathing during the night for a short period of time, we might have snoring and so on. Women can have that too, but it's very underdiagnosed. Those might be different than for men. So there are some gender differences, but I think they can be quite kind of distorted when we see it on social media.
Okay, yeah.
Can I add a third one?
Oh, please.
One that I hear quite regularly when I'm out talking about sleep in lectures and so on is that kind of screens and cell phones are bad. You should refrain from them for 2 hours before going to bed. And I would say that is kind of a truth with a modification. It's very easy that it becomes this like black and white. It's bad or it's good, you know? I think that we can use today's technology a lot smarter than we do today, but it might require also some kind of technological changes in how we can use the technology. But I think there are a lot of good things actually with the opportunities we have with today's technology. It's not really helpful to like lie in bed and scroll before we fall asleep, because you're probably, I mean, humans are curious on things, and you just want to see one more and one more and one more, and you get some rewarding feelings and dopamine, and it's going to be difficult to stop, especially when we're tired and easily distracted and so on. So that's maybe not very helpful with the screens. And checking our emails in bed is not really helpful either, because you don't know what's going to be in there. It can be something that you are going to get really upset about, or the news, for instance. But I mean, I use my phone right next to my bed, or with a speaker, to listen to calm music, or to watch some ASMR movies that help me to be really relaxed, or to listen to a podcast, or things that really help me to wind down. So it's not good and bad. We just have to find the best ways, you know.
Yeah, and I guess truly listen, really, like reflecting on the effect. If we can, I mean, to some degree, I guess we can.
Yeah.
Objectively. Experience that. Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know about the difference between men and women. Also, I mean, I noticed that also depending on where I am in my cycle, I need more or less sleep.
Yeah.
So that for sure. But more in general. Yeah. Yes. I don't really know, but I don't think so. but in some days.
When it comes to the menstrual cycle, I mean, there's not much research done on that. More like fewer studies with few people. So we definitely need more of that. But as you're kind of mentioning, it seems to be some differences throughout the menstrual cycle. Not like huge, but still noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's quite fascinating, actually.
Yeah, it is. So there is more research for you to be done.
Yeah.
Perfect. Nice. Is there anything else that you would like to share about sleep?
I could talk for hours about sleep, so don't get me started. No, I mean, I think we've covered many of the important key things, especially for putting things into practice. And I think that it's easy to think that, oh, now I need to like optimize everything at the same time and change everything and make everything much better than it is today. And try to do all at once. But I think that's not really helpful. I think it's much better to take like one thing that I want to do more or less of and incorporate that in a small scale. Like if I want to get more daylight, maybe I can take like 10 minutes of extra daylight before lunch. Maybe that's a really good start. And I can do it already when I have my clothes on or whatever. Just make it as easy as possible. Because the more we kind of strengthen this, like, okay, I made a change. I managed to stick to this for 2 weeks every day or almost every day. This is kind of building confidence also that I can do this. I can make changes. And I feel successful doing things that we can actually maintain and actually be successful in. I think that's the key.
Yeah, thank you very much. The small changes and then feeling the difference. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much for all your insights. I learned a lot. Thank you very much for today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really interesting.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new and helpful about sleep. Please don't stress if you realize that you're doing it all or some of it wrong. If there is such thing as wrong anyways, just notice it, become aware of it, and awareness is the first step towards positive change. And that first step should really come without judgment. If all that information was a bit much and you would like to rather read about all of the things we said in your own pace, then grab the free PDF guide that I created by clicking on the link in the show notes. And that guide includes some tips on how to implement new habits around sleep, and it will help you to increase your chances of actually making them stick and lasting. If you liked today's episode and found it useful, then please share it with a friend. Subscribe to my show to not miss future episodes. And then I would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I wish you all the best. And of course, a good sleep, a good, healthy, restorative sleep. And then I'm looking forward to welcoming you here again next time. Take care and all the best. Yours, Miriam.